Good afternoon.
Hello. Welcome to the Fine Print. Welcome back to the Fine Print podcast. I am your host, Zubair, together with
I'm
my co-host.
Sani.
And today we were talking about everybody's favorite topic, funding. And I'm happy to announce that I have a funding expert on the podcast today.
Who is the funding expert?
And that's you.
Oh, that's you.
How you're looking around to find the person.
Like, is there somebody else in here? Well, I'm honored. Let's dive into it then.
Yeah, and just before we start, I think it's quite a broad topic, so we're going to spread it out over a couple of episodes. I think it's worth giving it the time um, to really get into it and see the value we can bring from it. Let's jump
Sounds
in.
good. Welcome. So, fundraising. It's everyone's favorite thing to do, but immediately you get into it, it's not so fun.
Yeah,
I've had
yeah,
some
it's one of my favorite
bad
things.
experiences and some good ones as well.
Yeah, it's for me, it's a necessary evil. It's I don't know. It's but then again, for me, the best value I derive from the whole process is validation of your idea.
Yeah,
Because the
that's a good
moment
one.
you put yourself out there looking for somebody's money, you will really put your idea to the test.
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, people that are willing to give the money are very well. The experienced ones are very uh, have a thorough process of interrogating your idea and above all seeing if you break, if you truly
Mm-hmm.
believe, because it is trying and you get off some calls and you're rethinking your life. I'm like, what am I doing here?
Yeah, calls are even the easier ones. In person is the worst when you're standing there and they're grilling you, and you're thinking, is this actually a good idea? They're throwing so many cons at me.
Yeah, the funny
So,
one is, right before the meeting starts, the pleasantries and everybody meeting each other, and you're thinking, oh, they're nice people.
mhm.
And then you go in and they're ripping you to shreds.
And
I
they
thought
just,
friends.
yeah, they kill you out there. But like you said, they really help you polish up,
Yeah,
things about your business. They help you poke holes. A lot of entrepreneurs, they kind of get stuck in their own bubble with their co-founders and people they work with, and those people tend not to try and discredit the idea, because obviously you're all working on the idea, but VCs and angel investors and whoever you're going to pitch to, they will try and you know break the idea or put holes in it, and it will either destroy you or um, build your
yeah.
your model and make it even stronger.
Yeah, so for the structure of this discussion, let's start with going into the types of funding, and then we do a comparison of funding in Nigeria, funding in the US, and funding in the UK.
All
What do you
right.
think?
Yep, that sounds good. So for the types of funding, there is currently There's so many ways to fund, but the most popular ones in the industry right now are the angel investors, VCs. Um, those are the kind of private equity firms, but the incubators as well and accelerators. Those are the top three. So you would go from angels to VCs to the incubators, and if you're gonna be bootstrapping, then uh, bank loans would be the next one,
unless you have some savings.
unless you have some savings. So personally, for me, I feel like if you're not ready to sacrifice equity, which if you have a great idea, you should try to keep as much equity as possible, because a lot of founders, they feel like, oh, I have this equity, I'll just throw it around, sell it here and sell it there. And if the idea ends up taking off, you just see that you're left with like 15% or 10%, and then, everything else is gone. So, uh, definitely bootstrapping is, you need to take your bootstrapping game as far as you can take it, in my opinion. Uh, Funding from family and friends is also a
I
point
was
of
about
the
to say
discussion.
that, and
Yeah,
remind you of the most important one,
yeah.
uh, family and friends.
Family and friends, they never let you down. They always, it's gonna be small funds depending on, your type of family, I guess, and how much they love you. Or how many times your ideas have let them down. But yeah, you can definitely pull out some funds from there and get you started. But after a certain point, you have to move out of the family circle.
Mm. So I think this gives us a nice segue. But before we segue, why don't I add two more types: crowdfunding and government grants. We've already included loans in bootstrapping, so we leave it. Bootstrapping can a subset or subtype of bootstrapping is a loan, but I think government grants can be on a separate category. So I think a fun game here would be to group them in the most efficient in
Mm-hmm.
terms of where you are.
True. That's a good one.
So I'll start with Nigeria. The first one in Nigeria is family and friends, even before bootstrapping. I think I I would prefer. I always prefer the family and friends route in the sense that you to be able to get early validation or condemnation
Mm-hmm.
as in a safe space very early on, and
Mm-hmm.
depending on your circle of friends, you will get valuable feedback, especially if you have friends and family that are in maybe in the same space, be it tech or entrepreneurship. They'll be able to advise you accordingly on your ideas. I think I never considered government grants in Nigeria.
Yeah, those are very difficult.
Yeah,
Those are very difficult, and you need a lot of connect, a lot of patience for those. And a lot of them I've seen that people do get are mostly agriculture focused grants. They have never really had any experience with people getting tech grants or fintech grants or things like that. It's always agricultural.
yeah, and I think I'll have to blend angel with friends and family because the potential angel you're going to meet is most likely going to be a friend or a family.
A family member, yeah.
Yeah, I think I don't think I've ever seen a situation where angels don't advertise in Nigeria, especially for tech.
I mean, I feel like in Nigeria, advertising money is not even a thing, you
Fair.
know.
fair.
But Nigeria does have uh, a good amount of VC companies as well, or VCs in Lagos especially, and we'll leave a list of those in the description with a bunch of different company stages that they invest in, and and spaces that they invest in. So that's another thing you need to consider when looking for funding, especially with VCs and even angels, is that they don't invest in all company stages. And stages is something that we'll talk more in depth in the next episode. So definitely stay tuned. But basically, stages are where you are in your company at the moment. Are you starting? Do you have a product? Do you have a couple customers? Are you already making any money? All of these are different stages within your startup that you must know and and show before you get any money. So for the ones we were talking about just now, the family and friends, usually you approach those people when you just thought of the idea in the shower. That's pre-seed, early stage.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think that. But why do I keep feeling like VC, the whole VC idea in Nigeria is pretty new. I don't know. I think it's I started seeing Nigerian VCs just when fintechs started rising. But before then, is it
I
just
feel
me?
like
Am
a
I
lot of
wrong?
things, definitely it's not just you, but I feel like the VCs have still been, a lot of them have still been around since even 2018, and even older. It's just that the rise of startups is way more in these years, especially after COVID. A lot of people are trying to build businesses and things like that way more than they were before. A lot of people trying to live that entrepreneurial lifestyle and things like that. So that's why I guess we're more exposed to that, or we notice that more. But that's just me.
Yeah, actually, I just thought of something. After we finish going through the each country, um, we would rank them, the easiest to the most difficult, the three of them. So go next with US.
Before we jump into that, just wanted to talk about bank loans as well in Nigeria as a source of funding. Those are also um, kind of attainable, but are not as easy as angels, your friends and family. They're probably in the middle between that and government grants, but bank loans are still possible. I think the interest rate in Nigeria is not as crazy as the interest rates we get here in the US or in the UK, but they probably will ask you for more paperwork, which we're not used to having in Nigeria. you
and
know, Pardon? I didn't hear that.
and big collaterals. I think that's the most
Yes,
discouraging part of it.
and big
Um,
collaterals
yeah, you have to get the loan. They'll probably ask for a piece of land or a house.
in our house. Yeah.
Yeah, how many people do? How many people have houses or land just lying around waiting
Or the
for.
paperwork to their land.
Yeah, exactly. So it's in
Yeah.
fact that
So
was why I didn't even mention it because it's never occurred to me and it still
mhm.
didn't just now. So uh,
But yeah, jumping into the US, this is the land of opportunity. If it's to get money, you can get money from everywhere. Uh, like I mentioned earlier, it's all about what is right for you, sacrificing equity or not. And I can definitely say that I've gone both routes, both sacrificing equity and holding on to the equity. And holding on to the equity is both are actually difficult, Zubair. You know, you either you either have to put in that work to do all the pitch decks and get roasted by VCs and angel investors, or you go the bank route. And for us as Muslim entrepreneurs, of course, consuming interest is haram. So, and a lot of these bank loans, they come with 36% APR, 12% APR, 9% APR if you're lucky. So you kind of don't want to go that route, but there is a workaround. For example, if you just open a credit card, let's say with American Express, you have a $10,000 limit and they give you 0% APR for 1 year. So you're able to max that card out for 10K. You're not going to pay any interest on it for an entire year. And that kind of already falls within what you need. You have 10K, you didn't give up any equity, and you didn't compromise on the haram or on the halal.
what you mean
So
you're 10K in debt?
I mean, yes, you're 10K in debt, but that's you gotta pay to play, right?
Yeah,
That's the business life.
yeah. Um,
And of
I don't
course,
know.
10K
It's
is your
quite
limit.
yeah,
If
it's quite risky in the sense that there's so much pressure. In
mhm.
12 months, you have to make it work, or else you end up with 10K debt.
I mean,
That compound.
worst case scenario, at the end of 12 months, you have to just pay a minimum of $200, and then you have another month to work with. So it's
Um,
just that by
that
after the
is,
12 months, you'll start to get interest rates accruals. But be responsible, guys, with that info. Don't go maxing out 10K on your credit cards. You definitely need a game plan. 1 year, I think, is enough time for you to, even if you're, trying to crowd fund on the side, you'll definitely come up with that money to pay it off at least. But don't max out your cards. The second one is just plain old bank loans as well. But bank loans are difficult because they want to see the business be at least a year old. Most of the banks here in the US, they want to see it be 2 years old, but 1 year old is kind of acceptable. You will need your tax returns and you will need to show revenue coming into your company before they even touch you. Uh, so you need to have all of those things handy. Um, then there's the government programs, which are things like SBA loans, Small Business Association or Small Businesses of America. I forgot the name of the or whatever the acronym stands for. Those you can get from I believe from 50,000 all the way to $5 million, and that would really depend on your pitch. So you'd write out your business plan, your pitch deck, your everything. You would submit it to them. Of course, there are tips and tricks that you need to follow. They're more likely to approve you. For example, if you say you need to buy a commercial space because it's something that they can sell in case you don't pay back the loan. If you say you want to buy something like cars, which is what we're doing, they're not so likely to give that to you. So a lot of the SBA loans I've been filling out, I've been saying that we need to buy a property. So that's when the acceptance rate started to go up higher from zero to like 5% of them accepting us now. Um, what is the next one? VCs and angels?
Yeah, and I think that's the most important because I've been patiently waiting for you to
For
get
the
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we need to save the best for last. Uh, wait, incubators are very important as well. If you're in the US, incubator is probably a good way to go, uh, particularly because they nurture you. They take your equity from 6 to 10%, and they'll give you about 150K for your 6%. That's kind of their standard, but they will make sure that you grow because they want that 6% to actually grow into something. So incubators is a great one. VCs, they will take your money, take your equity, give you money, but they won't really, depending on how nice your VC is, they probably won't hold your hand. So if you fail, it's going to be bad. And I've heard some horror stories, VC horror stories, that have really, really turned me off of VCs because we hear this good life, you pitch your idea, they write you a fat check, and you just that's it. You go, you get a yacht and expand your business. But the kinds of stories I've heard, it's even worse than divorce stories because if you yeah, because a lot of people they
Yeah,
want to join
yes,
the
yeah.
VC and it's horrible. It goes into court. And a lot of VCs take big advantage of the startups because a lot of them they don't have proper legal teams. They don't read the documentation properly. They just see a fat check. They're like, yes, I'm gonna sign on this paper,
Get that
and
money.
they get shot in the foot. So VCs definitely a good route, but you have to be very, very careful. You have to actually like your VC. Don't just jump on him because he's offering you money as well. Uh, Actually like working with the VC. I think that's very important. But the safer route, I think, is especially in the US, is the angel investors. Um, Angel investors here have their own network, especially in Atlanta. They have something called the Angel Investors of Atlanta or something. It's ATA, I believe. And they will give you, they will also not hold your hand, but they will most likely take equity from you and they will ask that that equity not be diluted in the future. So if they take 10% from you, that 10% will stay constant throughout because they're taking a lot of the risk early on. So those are the kinds of of sharks we have out here. So Zubair, I'll hand it off for you for any questions. So I know I've said a lot.
Yeah, actually, it's the good point you made about remembering. I'm paraphrasing here. Remembering that your VC or your potential VC is not your friend. You're just a commodity. You're his product in his. You're the product in his line of business.
In his
So
portfolio.
yes, let's, remember that and always read the fine print.
Always.
Yeah. Okay. In the UK, I think a lot of it is. I think out of all the, well, we'll get to the ranking. So let me just jump straight into it. I think the biggest and the easiest one in the UK is the government grants. There's a grant for everything, and the eligibility and how to apply what is needed from you is always very clear. All you need to do is put it together, send it out, and if you meet the criteria, more often than not, you will get the grant. But they usually come with conditions. So be sure you're able to fulfill those conditions, and um, always read the contracts and the fine prints before committing.
Crazy how government grants is the number one ranked for you in the UK.
Yeah, yeah, that's because bootstrapping is it's very difficult. It's very difficult here, just on so many levels with the taxation. So yeah, bootstrapping is
So
not.
you guys can't get credit cards in the UK as easily?
No, not as easily. No,
No.
it is 90% easier, much easier in the states.
Yeah, it's like ordering McDonald's here.
Yeah, it's not here. It's not. Um, so yeah, so the loans are easier than credit cards, but the interest rates on those loans are horrible. So unless you're very sure and you need it for a very short time, I would highly discourage going the loan route. So, but in terms of angels and VCs, we don't have a lot. Well, so not having a lot is not a fair assessment, but um, getting in a room with one is very difficult. Unlike unlike the US,
Hmm.
so it's the best way to meet a VC or an angel is at expos. There's a lot of expos and conferences where you can showcase your products and have access to potential angels and VCs. I believe that's the fastest because I don't think cold emails work anymore when it comes to reaching out to VCs. The
I
best
would I would
strategy is
disagree a little bit. I think cold emails do still work. I just think that people need to make them super creative.
stand out.
You need to stand out a lot,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah. So that's what goes against the stat. So the easiest way is to get a referral or to meet them at a conference or an expo where you get to present your elevator pitch. Elevator pitch is the 30-second summary of who you are, what you do, and how we can benefit you. I think we should put this down for we should put the elevator pitch along with the pitch deck section to because you do need it. In some cases, all you have is 60 seconds to get your point across and for the person to decide whether or not the discussion is worth it.
Yeah, and in today's world, 60 seconds is everyone's attention span.
Yeah. But surprisingly, the the easiest is crowdfunding.
Hmm.
Yeah. So it's there's multiple platforms for crowdfunding.
You mean
Um,
like Kickstarter or something?
yes, Kickstarter.
Hmm.
But I find that with platforms like Kickstarter, not everything. So you can't a service. or not all ideas work there,
Mhm.
because you need to be able to give back for the contribution. So
Mhm.
usually things with products do very
Yeah.
well, because you can pledge a certain number of products for the first few people, or for the type of funding that
Mhm.
they're going for, or offer discounts. So unless you're doing that, it becomes very difficult to sell it,
Mhm.
because it's all about making your case on your short profile. They allow videos, you can do interviews, you can do demos to showcase what it is you're trying to sell. So I'll put the number one, government grants, followed by crowdfunding, and then angels and VCs for the UK.
So, what type of government grants? Do you have any particular names or programs that you've dealt with before?
Uh, so they're very different in terms of what level you're
Mhm.
going for. So check at the council level, and then check at the government level to see
Mhm.
who is. Actually, I missed incubators. There's quite a few, especially for people that are attached to universities.
Mhm.
So most universities have an incubator program that you can apply to. So alumni are still accepted, and they will take you on and nurture your idea and yourself all the way to success.
That's pretty cool. So, um, speaking of the government grants, you were mentioning at the council level, like, do you mean like talk to your council members or something? And
No, no, no. It's all advertised.
okay.
So they're mostly specific to what you're doing.
Mhm.
So in the past 5 years, there was a big campaign about anything with renewable energy. So
Mhm.
anything with recycling, anything that's zero waste was a big buzzword around that time. There was a lot of research being done. So there was a lot of grants for those kind of businesses. So it mostly depends on what is important to the government of the day.
Well, keep an eye out or ear out if you hear any car subscription grants going around in the UK.
Yeah, well, it
Well,
might
it,
not be car subscription. It can be, you can make a case for example, reducing individual carbon footprints by carpooling,
I
or
get.
reducing the amount of car ownership by
Mhm.
using some kind of a communal car system.
Mhm.
So instead of everybody owning a car that you end up using for short trips, you can say, okay, you can get a pay as you go car on demand for when you need to take longer trips. That will encourage you to either walk or use public transportation for shorter journeys. So you can make an environmental case
I
for
guess
suit.
we better start working on our case then.
I think the last thing on this topic is ranking easiest.
Easiest country?
Yeah,
Well, I don't want to be the biased person, but definitely I think the US is the easiest when it comes to all of this stuff,
yeah,
particularly because of just that ease of getting, zero interest rate credit cards and stuff like that. If you're really sure of your idea, or you think that, or you're at that stage of your business where, let's say, you just need a little bit of money to buy some product, and you have a wait list of people waiting to buy the product you're waiting for. or you're trying to acquire, and you're pretty sure that okay, you're gonna buy it and sell it now immediately and build up from there. I think those are kind of
Yeah,
those are
and
benefits that you can't get anywhere.
I agree with you with the that US is the easiest, and I find that US VCs and angels are much more generous with
Yeah,
funding.
and I think they're more open to kind of creativity as
Yeah,
opposed to the
the
UK.
appetite
They're
for
a bit
risk.
more,
The
yeah,
appetite for risk is a bit higher compared to everybody else. But I think we're going to disagree on the second one.
really. Okay.
Yeah, because the second one is Nigeria for me.
Really?
Yes.
Why?
Well, okay, so maybe this comes down to your network.
I think it does.
Yeah, because right now I would find fundraising in Nigeria much easier, much quicker than fundraising in the UK.
Hmm. I think then we need to rank based on somebody having zero network. If you have no network, you just have maybe couple friends and family, and you're just trying to get some funding.
Yeah, okay, so in that case, UK has to be second because with the government grants and even loans, you can it's based on merit.
Hmm.
Merits the quality of your idea and how you present your case. So in that case, yes, I would have to put UK second. You
Yeah,
just had
because
to take it away from Nigeria.
network trumps all. Like if you
Fair
have a
enough.
great
Yeah.
network, wherever you
Yeah.
are, you're going to succeed.
Fair
It
enough.
doesn't
Fair enough.
matter. Yeah.
Because I think in last episode we discussed how the impact of being used to starting a business in Nigeria, raising funds in Nigeria, and then coming back to the UK where I didn't have a strong network as I had in Nigeria, as I have in
Hmm.
Nigeria, difficult it was. So I'm inclined to agree with you.
Yep. So go out
Um,
there, guys, and make your network.
so I think now we move on to the book review section, and this one we both agree on that
Mhm.
it is one of the best books I have ever read. I know I almost said the same thing about the last book,
Yeah, I
but
was about to say we
yes,
always say this is the best
yeah.
book.
So, but this one is okay. So the last book was eye-opening, reality distorting, turn your world upside down, rethink your life
Hmm.
kind of kind of book. But this one is
It's a blueprint.
yes, this one is you finish this book and you think I can do anything
Yeah.
because
Or
that
I
that
can
was
do
the
it
feeling I
myself.
got from it.
So, do you want to quickly introduce the book then?
Yes, so we have Atomic Habits by James Clear, and the book is a comprehensive guide on how to build a habit. It's up to you to choose a good habit or a bad habit, but it's the same blueprint nonetheless. And the book went on to address things like motivation, discipline, and consistency. So these are things that we hear every day attributed to forming a good habit or even succeeding in anything you do. All motivational speakers talk about discipline. Everybody talks about motivation, But what a lot of people fail to do is, well, define it properly and how to achieve it. And
Hmm.
I think that was what James succeeded in doing with this book.
Yeah, definitely. Um, Very great book. James himself starts the book off by sort of explaining the predicament he was put in life. He he had some he had a pretty big accident, a
Yeah,
baseball accident, I believe, left him in and out of the hospital and surgery, and he was able to build up these tiny habits that led him to be a very successful athlete, businessman, and just person in general. And I think the saying "we're creatures of habit" isn't light. We are we are consisted of our habits more than we actually think. And by reading this book, you'll kind of be able to identify that a lot of things you do in life are just a bundle of habits, just repeating themselves over and over again, and you don't even think about it. Especially when he mentions things like triggers, there's
yeah,
that triggers the habit and you just start to do it, you know.
yeah. So I had that down as one of my lessons learned because he broke down the life cycle of a habit, called
Hmm.
it the habit loop. And every habit has four processes. You have the cue, you have the craving, you have the response, and then you have the reward. So if you can identify every habit and break it down into these things, you can promote or disrupt any habit
Hmm.
because you already know how it's formed. And once you interrupt any one of these, you'll be able to break any bad habits.
Yeah, I think
Pretty
that
much.
was one of the most important. And in the book as well, he discusses not people as well, but how companies have reverse
Yeah.
engineered these habits to sell more product. And one of the examples was, I believe, the toothpaste industry or the dental industry, on how they started adding mint into
Yeah.
toothpaste and advertising that, oh, your breath is minty, it's clean.
Yeah.
So, so it's now in our heads that if my breath isn't tingling and minty, it's dirty.
Yeah. I think the whole system he made public is arguably the biggest secret the advertising and marketing industry have kept from us. But in hindsight, even if you know the system,
Hmm.
you can't resist it
Yeah.
because we're programmed to respond to it. So there's no point fighting it. I think a big win is being able to identify it rather than taking up a stance to fight it because I believe that's a losing battle. What about so two other lessons for me is the power of tiny habits
Hmm.
and then the 2 minute rule.
Yeah, the power of tiny habits is something that I've actually implemented in the past 2 months. I've always wanted to read more Quran, and I've been having a lot of difficulty with that, uh, particularly because I'd be like, all right, I'm gonna start reading Quran from now on more, and then I'll start like shooting for 1 or 2 pages, and it becomes unsustainable,
Yep.
and all of a sudden the Quran's back on the shelf and doesn't come back down until maybe a couple Fridays, in a month, I'm ashamed to say. But so recently, what I started to do was I'm like, okay, uh, I'm gonna implement the tiny habits rule. So since I'm pretty good with the 5 daily prayers, alhamdulillah, I don't miss any. I'm just going to build, which is also something he talked about, which is habit stacking. So I already have this habit of praying consistently. Now I'm going to add a tiny habit on top, which is after every prayer, I'm just going to read one line, just one line, one verse in the Quran, and that's it after every prayer, which means that I'm going to read 5 verses, and in a
Five
day,
lines every day.
yeah, five lines a day, which would then stack into 30, right? 35
Yeah.
in a week, and that's better than nothing.
Yeah.
So slowly, I've went from reading one line to 2 lines a day, and I'm trying to work my way up slowly into maybe 5 lines a day or more. But just that 2 lines a day, they stack into a lot, and I can see that visually and personally as well. And also, Duolingo is something that I've made a habit of doing. Just
Oh,
two
what's your
minutes.
what's your streak?
My streak, 465 days now. I've been
Oh,
going.
you've doubled mine. I'm 221 days in.
Keep going. And just 2 minutes, 3 minutes a day, and I notice how much better, my French and Spanish have gotten.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Oh, we should follow each other on Duolingo, but then we don't do the same languages.
well, what language do you do?
I'm doing Arabic.
Okay. No, I, I
Yeah,
I
actually, I'm doing
actually,
Arabic and
actually,
Chinese.
I have Arabic and Chinese on my language tree, but I've been super focused on Spanish, particularly because of the Swift ride business. I work with a lot of Mexicans, so I've been I've been really really brushing up on my Spanish, so I could
Mm.
communicate with them better. Uh,
Ah,
so another thing I think the book mentioned before, kind of I forget, is the identity-based habits,
yeah.
um, which is basically, don't, for example, if you want to read more books, don't aim to read more books, aim to become a reader.
Yes. That whole mind shift. That
Yeah.
whole mind shift redefines how you approach the whole thing. Yeah. Well, I think 10 minutes is not enough to go through the lessons learned in this book. They are, I mean, the call we had reflecting on the book alone lasted about 20, 30 minutes, and that still wasn't enough. But before we go to the last section, which is who we recommend this book for, I just want to quickly touch on two things. The last lesson from me and my best example from the book.
Mhm.
Um, Last lesson is never miss twice. So, push comes to shove, you're trying to form a habit, you miss once. All right, that's excusable.
Mhm.
But whatever you do, try not to miss a second time, because that will be a downward spiral.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's one missing once is excusable, missing twice becomes a pattern. My favorite example from the book is the 2 minute rule on going to the gym, walking into the gym with your gym bag, fully dressed, and jumping on a machine and being in the gym for exactly 2 minutes and then
Mhm.
leave. And then go back every day, 2 minutes and then leave. Eventually, one day, you'll be there and think, I'm already here. I might as well just add 2 more sets. And then before you know it, you're in there for 5 minutes. and before you know it, you stop thinking about it, you're just there and you're just doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, the most difficult thing is starting, and that's why I love the 2 minute rule. It makes starting easy, makes it almost painless. So there's a vast array of lessons to be learned in this book.
Yeah, but the main takeaway is definitely everything has to be started small. I think
Yeah,
that's the main
yeah,
idea.
that's what. Yeah, yeah. So who do we recommend this book for? Anybody looking to build better habits, entrepreneurs and professionals especially, because it's yeah, the way he ties everything back to our daily lives and our business and our attitude towards our entrepreneurial pursuits and our businesses is incredible. And if you purchase the book, he has some bonus materials where he talks specifically on things like atomic habits for business, atomic habits for parenting,
Mm,
and yeah, he just divides them into different lessons, and definitely students and educators, and well, anybody struggling to break a bad habit.
yeah,
So
I think that's
yeah,
the biggest
yeah,
category of people.
yeah, I know. And in a nutshell, everybody should read this book.
100%.
How I feel.
And it's not a long book either. It's pretty brief.
Yeah. Okay, that brings us to the end of this episode.
Yeah, let us know what you think about the book in the comments, and we'll leave all the goodies in the description. And hopefully, oh, Zubair, don't forget your thing.
Oh yeah, but I'm still working on it. I still don't. I don't see it. I don't see the full picture. But you know what? Just stay tuned. Next week, I would have it, and it will be epic. I have a good feeling on it. I can see part of the picture, just not the whole thing. Yeah, I think it's going to be one hell of a tagline.
It's okay. No one's listening anyways.
Yeah, yeah. So join us again next week.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.